Commander Jiwan stood on the bridge of the EDF Harmony and watched the enemy ships come closer. The Vorthan raiders moved in their usual pattern. 3 heavy cruisers and a dozen smaller attack ships. They always attacked the same way. They never learned. "Sir, they are targeting the mining station again," said Lieutenant Yunji from her position at the weapons console. Her fingers moved over the controls, but she waited for orders. The crew of the Harmony always waited for orders. Jiwan nodded slowly. He had seen this attack pattern 23 times in the past 4 months. The Vorthans would come in fast, hit the outer defenses and try to scare the human colonists. Then they would retreat when the Earth Defense Force showed up. It was like a game to them. "Standard defensive protocol," Jiwan said in his calm voice. "Disable their weapon systems only. Do not target their life support or engines unless they fire on civilian areas." The young officer at the tactical station looked confused. Ensign Minwoo had joined the crew just 2 weeks ago. He came from Earth, where the military academies taught different lessons about war. "Sir, we could destroy their entire fleet in 10 minutes, Minwoo said quietly. "Why do we always let them escape?" Captain Minho turned from the navigation console. He was older than the rest of the crew and had fought in 3 different conflicts before the Vorthan raids began. His face showed the patience that came with experience. "Because we are not animals, Ensign," Minho said. "We follow the rules of war even when our enemies do not." The Vorthan ships opened fire on the mining station. Red energy beams cut through space and struck the station shields. The shields held, but Jiwan could see the power readings drop on his screen. "Return fire," he ordered. "Target their forward weapons only." The Harmony's guns fired precise shots. Blue beams of energy struck each Vorthan ship exactly where the weapons were mounted. The alien guns exploded in bright flashes, but the ships themselves remained undamaged. The Vorthan crews were safe inside their vessels. On the communications screen, Jiwan could see the confused face of the Vorthan commander. The alien had 4 eyes and gray skin that looked like old leather. His mouth moved in what might have been anger or surprise. "Human ship," the Vorthan commander said in broken standard. "Why you not destroy us? We attack your people." Jiwan activated the communication system. "This is Commander Jiwan of the Earth Defense Force. You have attacked a civilian mining station. Please withdraw your forces immediately." The Vorthan commander's 4 eyes blinked in a strange pattern. "You weak. You not fight like warriors. You fight like scared children." "We fight according to the rules of civilized warfare," Jiwan replied. "Your weapons are disabled. You may return to your territory unharmed." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. The Vorthan ships turned and moved away from the mining station. They always left when their weapons were destroyed. They never stayed to fight with damaged ships. After the enemy ships disappeared, Jiwan ordered a full report on the mining station. 3 workers had minor injuries from when the station shook during the attack. The medical bay was already treating them. No one had died. No one ever died in these attacks because the humans always responded so quickly. "Sir," said Lieutenant Yunji, "I am reading several escape pods from the Vorthan ships. They ejected their damaged weapon systems. This was also part of the pattern. The Vorthans would dump their broken weapons in space rather than try to repair them. It seemed wasteful to the human crew, but it was how the aliens always operated." "Deploy recovery teams," Jiwan ordered. "Collect the weapon fragments and any crew members who might be injured." Ensign Minwoo looked even more confused. "Sir, we are going to rescue enemy soldiers? We are going to follow the Galactic Convention on Treatment of Prisoners, Captain," Minho explained. "Any injured personnel must be given medical aid regardless of which side they fight for." The recovery operation took 2 hours. The human teams found no injured Vorthans, but they collected 17 pieces of destroyed weapon systems. The fragments would be analyzed and then returned to the Vorthan government through diplomatic channels. This was also standard procedure. While the recovery teams worked, Jiwan received a message from Admiral Bora at Fleet Command. Her face appeared on the private communication screen in his ready room. "Another successful defense, Commander," Admiral Bora said. "The mining station reports minimal damage and no casualties." "Yes, ma'am. The Vorthons followed their usual attack pattern. We responded with standard protocols. Admiral Bora was quiet for a moment. She looked tired. The Vorthon raids had been going on for 4 months and they were becoming more frequent. What had started as small attacks on remote outposts was now affecting major colony worlds. Jiwan, I need to ask you something, she said. How do you think the crew feels about our rules of engagement? Jiwan thought about Ensign Minwoo's questions. The young officer was not the first to wonder why the humans did not simply destroy the Vorthon raiders. Many of the crew had similar thoughts. They understand the importance of following civilized procedures, ma'am, but some of them wonder if we are being too gentle. And what do you think? Jiwan looked out the window of his ready room. He could see the mining station in the distance. Its lights twinkled against the black of space. 3,000 people lived and worked on that station. They had families, dreams, and hopes for the future. They trusted the Earth Defense Force to protect them. I think we are showing the galaxy what it means to be human, he said. We could destroy the Vorthon ships easily. Our weapons are more advanced. Our tactics are better. Our crews are better trained. But we choose not to kill unless we have no other option. Admiral Bora nodded. That is exactly right, Commander. We fight to protect our people, not to prove how strong we are. After the communication ended, Jiwan returned to the bridge. The recovery teams had finished their work and the weapon fragments were secured in the cargo bay. The injured miners were recovering in the medical bay. The mining station was back to full operation. Sir, said Lieutenant Yunji, we are receiving a transmission from the Vorthon High Command. This was unusual. The Vorthons normally did not communicate after their raids. They would attack, retreat, and disappear for several days before attacking somewhere else. Put it on screen, G1 ordered. The face of a different Vorthon appeared, on the main display. This one wore what looked like military decorations and had scars across his gray skin. His 4 eyes looked directly at G1. Human Commander, the alien said in better standard than the raider had used. I am General Vorthak of the Vorthon Warfleet. Your response to our raids is interesting. How can we help you, General? G1 asked politely. You return our damaged equipment. You treat our wounded. You file diplomatic complaints instead of seeking revenge. This is not how war is fought in this galaxy. This is how humans fight war, General. We believe that conflict should be resolved with as little suffering as possible. General Vorthak's scarred face showed what might have been amusement. You are either very wise or very weak, human. We will discover which. The transmission ended. G1 stood on his bridge and wondered what the Vorthon general meant. Around him, his crew returned to their normal duties. They checked systems, monitored communications, and prepared for the next attack that would surely come. None of them knew that the Vorthons had already decided humans were weak. None of them knew that the raids were about to become something much more dangerous. And none of them knew that humanity's choice to remain civilized was about to be tested in ways they could not imagine. In the cargo bay, the Vorthon weapon fragments sat in storage containers waiting to be returned to their owners. It was a small gesture of goodwill in a galaxy that rarely saw such things, but it was a gesture that would soon be seen as evidence of human weakness rather than human strength. The war was about to change, and when it did, the galaxy would learn something important about the difference between choosing to be gentle and being unable to be fierce. 3 months had passed since General Vorthak's strange message. The raids had grown worse, much worse. What started as attacks on mining stations and cargo ships had become something darker. Dr. Hyon stood in her laboratory on Luna Station and studied the latest intelligence reports. As Earth's lead expert on alien behavior, she spent her days trying to understand why the attacks were changing. The data on her screen painted a troubling picture. Computer, display attack pattern analysis for the past 90 days, she said. The holographic display showed a map of human space. Red dots marked every Vorthon attack. In the early months, the red dots clustered around industrial targets and shipping lanes. Now they were scattered across civilian areas. The door to her lab opened and General Dongyan walked in. He was the head of Earth Defense Intelligence and one of the few people who understood how serious the situation had become. Doctor, I need your assessment, he said without greeting. His face looked grim. The Vorthans hit New Seoul yesterday. They targeted the primary school. Dr. Hyun felt her stomach drop. She had grown up on New Seoul. Her sister still lived, there with her 2 young children. Casualties? 43 injured. No deaths, thanks to our rapid response. But Hyun, they broadcast the attack on their entertainment networks. They turned it into a show. The doctor sat down heavily in her chair. She had been studying alien psychology for 15 years, but this was beyond anything she had seen before. The Vorthans were not just testing human military responses anymore. They were testing something much more fundamental. They are learning our patterns, she said quietly. Every time we respond with medical aid and prisoner exchanges, they study our behavior. They are building a profile of human weakness. General Dong-hyun activated the secure communication system. Soon the faces of other military leaders appeared on screens around the room. Admiral Bora from Fleet Command, Colonel Suman from Colonial Defense, Captain Minho from the Harmony. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem, General Dong-hyun began. The Vorthans are no longer testing our military capabilities. They are testing our willingness to maintain civilized behavior under extreme pressure. Colonel Suman spoke first. Her voice was tight with controlled anger. Yesterday's attack on New Seoul was different. They used precision weapons to damage the school but not destroy it. They wanted maximum fear with minimum actual destruction. Why? Asked Captain Minho from his ship. Dr. Hyun pulled up another display. Because they are studying us. Look at this data. Every time we respond to an attack, they measure our reaction time, our weapon usage, our treatment of prisoners. They have created what I can only call a human response database. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The Vorthans were not trying to defeat humanity in traditional warfare. They were trying to understand human psychology well enough to exploit it. There is more, General Dong-hyun said. Our intelligence networks have detected communication between the Vorthans and 2 other hostile species. The Chromac hives and the Stellar Dominion are both showing increased military activity near our borders. Admiral Bora leaned forward on her screen. You think they are planning a coordinated attack? I think they are planning something worse than an attack, Dr. Hyun said. I think they are planning to test whether humans will abandon their moral principles when pushed far enough. The meeting continued for 2 hours. Reports came in from across human space. The attacks were becoming more frequent and more targeted. The Vorthans were hitting hospitals, schools, and refugee centers. They would cause just enough damage to provoke a response, then study that response carefully. After the meeting ended, Dr. Hyun remained in her laboratory. She pulled up classified files from the early days of human space expansion. During the first contact wars 50 years ago, humans had fought very differently. The records were sealed for good reason. Her computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from her sister Sunmi on New Seoul. Hyun, I wanted you to know that Gina and Taiho are okay. They were in the school when it was attacked, but the teachers got everyone to safety. The Earth Defense Force response was incredible. Medical teams arrived in 8 minutes. The children are scared but not hurt. Dr. Hyun smiled slightly. Her niece and nephew were safe. The human military had done exactly what it was supposed to do. Fast response, minimal casualties proper, medical care for everyone including wounded Vorthans. But as she read the rest of her sister's message, her smile faded. The strangest thing happened after the attack. Some of the Vorthan prisoners asked to speak with the children. They wanted to know why the human soldiers had treated their wounds instead of leaving them to die. The children could not understand the question. To them, helping injured people was just the normal thing to do. Dr. Hyun stared at the message for a long time. The Vorthans were not just studying human military tactics. They were studying human nature itself. They could not understand why humans would help their enemies. 3 days later, the next attack came. This time it was on the agricultural world of New Busan. The Vorthans hit during harvest season when the fields were full of workers. But instead of targeting the workers directly, they destroyed the medical centers first. Colonel Jahoon commanded the defense of New Busan. His response followed standard protocols. Deploy medical ships immediately. Establish safe zones for civilians. Disable enemy weapons without destroying their life support. But when the human medical ships arrived, they found a trap. The Vorthons had planted devices in the wreckage of the medical centers. When the human rescue teams tried to help the wounded, the devices activated. 15 human medics were injured in the explosions. The Vorthon commander broadcast a message after the attack. Humans, your kindness makes you weak. Your rules make you predictable. We will use your own goodness to destroy you. The message reached Earth within hours. President Young-ho called an emergency session of the Defense Council. Military leaders, government officials, and civilian advisors gathered in the secure meeting room beneath Geneva. They are not trying to defeat us militarily, Dr. Hyan explained to the assembled group. They are trying to force us to abandon our principles. They want us to become as brutal as they are. Secretary of Defense Nari reviewed the casualty reports. Our medical personnel are requesting permission to carry weapons. Our colony governors are asking for authorization to use more aggressive tactics. And if we do that, said Admiral Bora via communication link, we prove their point. We show the galaxy that human civilization is just a pretense that disappears under pressure. President Young-ho looked around the room. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity and upholding human values. Now, they faced an enemy who wanted to corrupt those values. What are our options, he asked. General Dongyun activated a tactical display. We can continue current protocols and accept increasing casualties. We can modify our rules of engagement to be more aggressive, or we can send a clear message about what happens when someone pushes us too far. What kind of message? President Young-ho asked. The room fell quiet. Everyone understood what the general meant. Humanity had chosen to fight civilized wars not because they had to, but because they wanted to. That choice could be changed if necessary. Dr. Hyan spoke into the silence. Before we make any decisions, we should understand what we are really facing. The Vorthons, the Chromac, and the Stellar Dominion have formed an alliance. They call it the Human Pacification Protocol. She activated her own display showing intercepted communications. They believe they have discovered a fatal weakness in human psychology. They think our adherence to civilized warfare makes us unable to fight effectively. They are planning a massive coordinated attack to test this theory. President Young-ho studied the intelligence reports. Ships massing at 3 different locations, supply lines being established, communication networks being expanded. The enemy was preparing for something much larger than raids. How long do we have? He asked. Based on their logistics, approximately 6 weeks, General Donghyun replied. Then we have 6 weeks to decide what kind of species we want to be when this is over, President Young-ho said. 6 weeks to choose between maintaining our principles and surviving what is coming. As the meeting ended, each person left with the same terrible knowledge. The galaxy was about to discover whether human civilization was a choice or a limitation. The enemy believed it was a limitation they could exploit. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Communications specialist Jihoon had been monitoring alien transmissions for 3 years. He worked alone in a small room deep inside Luna Station, surrounded by screens that showed data streams from across the galaxy. Most nights were quiet. Tonight was different. His computer made a soft beeping sound. An encrypted transmission had been intercepted from the Vorthon fleet. Jihoon had been trying to break their encryption codes for months. This time something was different about the signal pattern. Computer run decryption protocol 7, he said. The screen filled with alien text. Slowly, the translation program converted the words into standard. What Jihoon read made his blood run cold. The transmission was from General Vorthak to commanders of the Chromac Hives and Stellar Dominion. It contained detailed plans for what they called Operation Human Harvest. The 3 alien species had studied human responses for months and believed they had found the perfect strategy. Jihoon reached for his emergency communication device. Within minutes, his discovery was being reviewed by the highest levels of Earth's government. 2 hours later, President Young-ho sat in the emergency session room with his closest advisors. The intercepted transmission glowed on the main screen. Every person in the room had read it twice. No one wanted to believe it was real. "They are planning to attack Earth directly," said Secretary of Defense Nari. "Not the colonies, not the outer stations, Earth itself." Admiral Bora appeared on the communication screen from her flagship. "Sir, this is not a military invasion. Look at their target list: schools, hospitals, residential areas. They plan to attack civilians specifically to force us to break our own rules." Dr. Hyan studied the tactical analysis. "They believe that if they can make us abandon our principles once, we will become like every other species in the galaxy. Brutal and predictable." President Young-ho was quiet for a long moment. He had led humanity for 8 years through peace and prosperity. Now he faced a decision that would define what humans were as a species. "What are our military options?" he asked. General Dong-hyun activated the tactical display. Red symbols showed the positions of the 3 alien fleets. They were massive formations, larger than anything humanity had faced since the early expansion. Wars. "We can meet them in space with our current fleet. Our technology is superior, but they have numerical advantage. We estimate 60% chance of victory using standard engagement protocols." "And if we do not use standard protocols?" President Young-ho asked. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Earth's military had capabilities that were never used, weapons that were never deployed, strategies that were never implemented, all because humanity had chosen to fight civilized wars. Ambassador Kyung-soo spoke for the first time. He was Earth's chief diplomat to the Galactic Federation and had spent decades building relationships with alien species. His voice was heavy with sadness. "If we abandon our principles now, we lose more than this war. We lose what makes us different from every other species in the galaxy." "And if we maintain our principles and lose the war?" asked Secretary Nari. "Then we lose everything," Admiral Bora said from the screen. President Young-ho stood and walked to the window. Far below he could see the lights of Geneva. Millions of people lived normal lives, unaware that their entire civilization hung in the balance. Children played in parks, families shared meals, students studied for exams that might never happen. "There is a third option," he said quietly. He turned back to face the room. "We give them one final warning, clear and honest. We tell them exactly what will happen if they continue with their attack." Dr. Hyan looked puzzled. "Sir, we have sent dozens of diplomatic protests. They ignore them all." "Not a diplomatic protest," President Young-ho said. "A warning. We tell them the truth about what humanity becomes when we stop being polite." The debate that followed lasted 18 hours. Military leaders argued for immediate preemptive strikes. Diplomats pushed for extended negotiations. Philosophers and ethicists discussed the moral implications of abandoning civilized warfare. Finally, Ambassador Kyung-soo made the proposal that changed everything. "We send them one message, direct, honest, and absolutely clear about the consequences of their actions. We give them a choice. They can end this now, or they can discover what humans are like when we decide to stop showing mercy." The message took 6 hours to write. Every word was debated. Every phrase was analyzed. The final version was simple and direct. President Young-ho stood before the recording device in the presidential communications room. Behind him, the flag of Earth hung motionless. His words would be broadcast to every hostile alien fleet, every government, every military commander who threatened human space. "This is Earth's final diplomatic communication to the Vorthon War Fleet, the Chromac Hives, and the Stellar Dominion. For months, you have tested our responses to your attacks. You have studied our adherence to civilized warfare. You have concluded that our mercy is weakness and our principles are limitations." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "You are wrong. We have conducted warfare according to civilized principles not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to show restraint. We have chosen mercy, not because we cannot be merciless, but because we believe intelligence and honor should guide our actions." The president's voice remained calm, but something cold entered his eyes. "You have mistaken our choice for inability. You have confused our kindness with helplessness. You have interpreted our civilization as a fatal weakness that you can exploit. Another. Pause. In broadcast centers across human space, technicians prepared to send the message on every frequency, in every alien language, to every corner of the galaxy. Your current military actions threaten Earth directly. Your plans target human civilians specifically. Your strategy assumes that we will continue to limit ourselves to defensive measures and civilized responses. President Young-ho stepped closer to the camera. You have 24 standard hours to withdraw all hostile forces from human space and cease all military operations against human targets. This includes your fleets currently massing for Operation Human Harvest. Yes, we know about your plans. We know your positions, we know your capabilities. The president's voice became very quiet, but every word carried absolute certainty. If you attack again, we drop civility. If you target our civilians, we abandon mercy. If you mistake our restraint for weakness one more time, you will discover what humanity is truly capable of when we stop choosing to be gentle. He stood silent for a moment, letting the weight of his words settle. This is not a negotiation. This is not a diplomatic protest. This is your final warning. 24 hours. Choose wisely. The message was broadcast immediately. Within minutes, it reached every alien fleet, every hostile government, every military commander who had spent months believing humans were weak. In the Vorthan flagship, General Vorthak listened to the message 3 times. His 4 eyes blinked in the pattern that indicated deep thought. Around him, his staff officers waited for orders. "What do you think, General?" asked his tactical advisor. "Are they bluffing?" General Vorthak looked at the display showing human space. For months, they had attacked human targets and received gentle responses. Medical aid for their wounded. Diplomatic protests instead of revenge. Careful precision that avoided civilian casualties. "Send the message to High Command," he said finally. "Tell them the humans are still being polite. They ask for 24 hours. They make threats but offer no proof of new capabilities." His tactical advisor looked uncertain. "Sir, their tone was different this time." "Their tone is always different," General Vorthak replied. "But their actions remain the same. Gentle, predictable, weak." He activated the fleet communication system. All ships maintain current positions. Operation Human Harvest proceeds as planned. In 22 hours, we will discover if human politeness extends to defending their home world. The decision was made. The aliens had heard humanity's final warning and chosen to ignore it. In command centers across human space, authorization codes were prepared that had never been used. Weapons systems were activated that had never been fired. Military protocols were implemented that had been designed but never deployed. Humanity had tried to end this peacefully. They had offered their enemies a chance to walk away. The offer had been rejected with contempt. In 18 hours, 3 alien species would learn the difference between choosing to be civilized and being unable to be anything else. They would discover that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to choose when to stop being merciful. The age of polite warfare was about to end. The age of human fury was about to begin. 23 hours and 17 minutes after Earth's final warning, the Vorthan fleet entered human space. General Vorthak had made his choice. Operation Human Harvest would proceed as planned. Captain Jaehoon stood on the bridge of the EDF Retribution and watched the enemy ships approach Earth. His ship was one of 12 vessels that formed humanity's last line of defense. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with unusual quiet. Everyone knew what was about to happen. "Sir, incoming message from Fleet Command," said Lieutenant Soo-young at the communications station. Admiral Bora's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grim but determined. "All ships, this is Admiral Bora. Authorization code Omega 77 has been confirmed. You are cleared to engage with unrestricted protocols." Captain Jaehoon felt a chill run down his spine. Omega 77 was a code he had hoped never to hear. It meant that all rules of engagement were suspended, all limitations were removed, all mercy was abandoned. "Acknowledged, Fleet Command," he replied. EDF retribution switching to unrestricted engagement protocols. Around him, his crew began activating weapon systems that had never been used in combat. The ship's computer requested confirmation for each system. Heavy plasma cannons that could slice through enemy armor like paper. Quantum torpedoes that could destroy entire fleets. Electronic warfare packages that could shut down alien technology permanently. Lieutenant Commander Su Yung looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, all weapon systems are online. We are ready for full combat operations." The Vorthon fleet consisted of 47 ships. 3 massive dreadnoughts, 12 heavy cruisers, and 32 escort vessels. It was the largest alien fleet ever assembled for an attack on human space. General Vorthak believed it was more than enough to defeat 12 human ships. He was about to learn how wrong he was. "Enemy fleet is approaching optimal engagement range," reported Ensign Kwang Ho from the sensor station. "They are maintaining standard attack formation." Captain Jae-hoon studied the tactical display. The Vorthons were approaching exactly as their captured tactical manuals predicted. They had learned nothing from months of studying human responses. They still expected polite warfare. "All ships, this is Captain Jae-hoon. Commence Operation Clean Slate. Target priority is complete elimination of hostile capability. No prisoners, no mercy, no survivors." The transformation was instantaneous and terrible. The EDF retribution opened fire with weapons the Vorthons had never seen. Plasma beams cut through the lead Vorthon dreadnought like a knife through paper. The massive, alien ship exploded in a ball of white fire that lit up the darkness of space. Lieutenant Commander Su Yung coordinated the attack from her station. "Phoenix Squadron, target the heavy cruisers. Dragon Squadron, eliminate the escort vessels. Leave nothing functional." The battle lasted exactly 11 minutes and 37 seconds. When it ended, the Vorthon fleet no longer existed. 47 ships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Not a single escape pod had been launched. Not a single distress signal had been sent. The aliens had been so completely overwhelmed that they never had time to understand what was happening to them. "Sir, all enemy contacts eliminated," reported Ensign Kwang Ho. "No survivors detected." Captain Jae-hoon looked at the tactical display. Where the Vorthon fleet had been, there was now only empty space and scattered wreckage. His 12 ships had destroyed a force 4 times their size without taking a single casualty. "Signal Fleet Command," he ordered. "Earth defense perimeter is secure. Phase 1 of Clean Slate complete." Admiral Bora's voice came through the communication system. "Acknowledged. Retribution. Well done. Proceed to Phase 2 targets. Phase 2 was the systematic elimination of every Vorthon military installation within 50 light-years of Earth. Captain Jae-hoon's task force moved through space like a force of nature. Space stations that had taken decades to build were destroyed in minutes. Shipyards that had produced hundreds of warships were reduced to atomic particles. The Vorthon home world received the news of their fleet's destruction 6 hours later. The response from their high command was immediate panic. They tried to surrender. They sent urgent messages asking for mercy. They offered to pay tribute and accept human rule. All of their messages were ignored. Humanity was no longer accepting surrenders. At the same time, similar operations were taking place throughout the galaxy. The Chromac Hives had sent their invasion fleet toward the human colony of New Tokyo. They never arrived. Commander Taehyung's strike force intercepted them in deep space and eliminated every ship. The Stellar Dominion had planned to attack human trade routes. Their fleets were destroyed before they could leave their home systems. Captain Minseo led a deep strike mission that penetrated their territory and systematically dismantled their entire military infrastructure. Within 72 hours, 3 major alien civilizations had been reduced to pre-industrial status. Their space fleets were gone. Their orbital stations were destroyed. Their military technology was eliminated so completely that rebuilding would take centuries. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated capabilities that no one had suspected. The gentle species that had spent years following rules of civilized warfare revealed themselves as the most devastating military force the galaxy had ever seen. On the bridge of the EDF Harmony, Commander Ji-won received reports from across human space. Every hostile fleet had been eliminated. Every threatening installation had been destroyed. The aliens who had tested human patience for so long were no longer capable of threatening anyone. "Sir, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 different species," reported Lieutenant Yunji. "They are offering unconditional surrender and requesting mercy." Commander Jiwan looked at the messages scrolling across his screen. Alien. Governments that had never shown interest in humanity were now desperate to avoid human attention. Species that had considered humans weak were now terrified of human strength. "Forward all surrender requests to Fleet Command," he ordered, "and send a message to all alien governments in this sector. Tell them that humanity is prepared to return to civilized conduct, but any future aggression will be met with the same response they have just witnessed." The message spread across the galaxy faster than any previous human communication. Within hours, alien news networks were broadcasting the footage of destroyed fleets and eliminated installations. The images were accompanied by urgent warnings from military analysts. Do not engage human forces under any circumstances. Their restraint was a choice, not a limitation. They possess military capabilities that exceed anything in our databases. General Vorthak sat in the ruins of his command center on the Vorthon homeworld. His fleet was gone. His space stations were destroyed. His entire military had been eliminated in less than 3 days. Around him, his surviving staff tried to understand what had happened. "How did they do this?" asked his tactical advisor. 3 months ago, they could barely defend a mining station without filing diplomatic complaints. General Vorthak stared at the tactical displays showing empty space where his fleets used to be. For months, he had believed that human politeness was weakness. He had convinced 3 civilizations to join him in testing that theory. They were not weak, he said quietly. They were holding back. All this time, they were choosing to fight gently. We thought their mercy was inability. We thought their civilization was limitation. He stood and walked to the window of his destroyed command center. In the distance, he could see the wreckage of the orbital shipyards, where thousands of Vorthon ships had been built. Now they were clouds of debris slowly falling toward the planet's surface. "Send a message to any surviving alien governments," he ordered. "Tell them what we learned too late. Human kindness is not weakness. Human civilization is not inability. When they say they are being merciful, they mean it. When they warn you to stop, you stop." The message was sent, but it was unnecessary. Every species in the galaxy had received the lesson. Humanity had spent months trying to resolve conflicts peacefully. They had offered mercy, shown restraint, and followed civilized rules of warfare even when their enemies did not. But when their enemies mistook that choice for weakness, humanity had demonstrated the difference between being unable to fight and choosing not to fight. The difference between being weak and being strong enough to show mercy. 3 alien civilizations had learned that lesson at the cost of their entire military capability. The rest of the galaxy had learned it by watching what happened to species that pushed humanity too far. The age of testing human patience was over. The age of respecting human choices had begun. And throughout the galaxy, alien governments issued new standing orders to their military forces. Under no circumstances were they to engage human ships. Under no circumstances were they to threaten human colonies. And under no circumstances were they to mistake human politeness for human weakness ever again. The humans had stopped being nice. No one wanted to see what happened when they decided to stop being merciful. 6 weeks after the war ended, Fleet Admiral Hanul stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Federation. The Great Hall on Nexus Station had seen many historic moments, but nothing like this. 200 alien delegates sat in stunned silence as they listened to humanity's new position in galactic politics. Admiral Hanul wore her dress uniform with pride. The medals on her chest represented 30 years of service, but the last 6 weeks had been unlike anything in her career. She had commanded the most decisive military campaign in galactic history. Now she had to explain what it meant. "Representatives of the Galactic Federation," she began. "The human species wishes to make our position absolutely clear. We prefer civilization. We choose diplomacy. We value mercy and restraint above all other military virtues." She paused and looked around. The hall. Many of the delegates had seen the footage of destroyed alien fleets. They had watched recordings of human ships eliminating entire military installations in minutes. The contrast between those images and her peaceful words was not lost on anyone. But these are choices, not limitations, she continued. For too long, some species in this galaxy have mistaken our preference for peace as an inability to wage war effectively. Behind her, holographic displays showed the current strategic situation. Where 3 major alien civilizations had once posed threats to galactic stability, there were now empty regions of space. The Vorthan war fleet no longer existed. The Chromac hives had been reduced to their home worlds. The stellar dominion had lost all military capability. The former aggressor species have been provided with detailed instructions for rebuilding their societies, Admiral Hanul explained. Those instructions include mandatory education about the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. In the audience, Ambassador Kyrian of the Altarian Republic raised his hand. He was one of the oldest diplomats in the Federation and had seen many wars come and go. His voice shook slightly as he spoke. Admiral, the Galactic Federation has spent decades believing we understood humanity's place in the galactic order. What we witnessed in the past 6 weeks challenges everything we thought we knew about your species. Admiral Hanul nodded. That is correct, Ambassador. Humanity has deliberately limited our military responses for 50 years. We believed that showing restraint would encourage other species to resolve conflicts peacefully. And when that approach failed? Asked Ambassador Kyrian. We demonstrated what happens when patience ends, Admiral Hanul replied simply. Commander Taehyung stepped forward to present his report. As the new governor of the occupied Vorthan territories, he had spent weeks trying to help the surviving alien population understand what had happened to them. The Vorthan people are learning to rebuild their civilization, he said. We have provided them with basic technology and agricultural support. In return, they are required to attend education programs about interspecies relations. Ambassador Zelani of the Crystalline Collective spoke next. Her species communicated through color changes in their transparent bodies, and her current pattern indicated deep confusion. Commander, how do we know that humanity will not use these military capabilities against peaceful species? Commander, Taehyung smiled slightly. Because we have not done so for 50 years despite having these capabilities the entire time. We could have conquered half the galaxy decades ago. Instead, we chose to build trade relationships and cultural exchanges. The truth of his words settled over the hall like a heavy blanket. Every species present realized that humanity could have dominated them at any time. The gentle traders and peaceful explorers they had known for decades possessed military technology that made them the most powerful force in the galaxy. Ambassador Jisoo, Earth's chief diplomat, took the podium to conclude humanity's presentation. She had spent her entire career building relationships with alien species. Now she had to rebuild those relationships on entirely new foundations. We return now to our preferred state of civilized conduct, she announced. Trade agreements will be honored. Diplomatic relations will continue. Cultural exchanges will resume. But let the record show that humanity's civility is a gift we choose to give, not a weakness others can exploit. The formal session ended with the signing of new treaties. Every species in the Federation agreed to updated protocols for interstellar conflict resolution. The new agreements included specific provisions about the treatment of human civilians and colonies. After the delegates left, Admiral Hanul remained in the hall with her senior staff. Captain Jae-hoon, Commander Taehyung, and other military leaders who had participated in the campaign gathered around the conference table. How do you think they took it? Asked Captain Jae-hoon. Better than expected, Admiral Hanul replied. Fear has a way of encouraging understanding. Dr. Hyun joined the group via holographic communication from her laboratory on Luna Station. She had been analyzing the psychological impact of the campaign on both human and alien populations. The galaxy's perception of humanity has changed permanently, she reported. Before the war, we were seen as useful, but weak. Now we are seen as benevolent but incredibly dangerous. It is a much more stable foundation for interstellar relations. Commander Taehyung pulled up a report from the Vorthan territories. The rehabilitation programs are working well. The younger Vorthans are adapting quickly to the new reality. They understand that aggression toward humans is not just wrong, but suicidal. And the older ones? Asked Captain Jae-hoon. They remember General Vorthak's lessons, Commander Tae-hyung replied. They tell stories about the humans who could destroy fleets in minutes but chose to rebuild schools instead. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth. President Young-ho appeared on the main screen, looking tired but satisfied. Admiral, I wanted to personally thank you and your entire command for your service during the crisis, he said. The galaxy is a safer place because of your actions. Thank you, Mr. President. What is the situation on Earth? Peaceful, President Young-ho replied with a smile. For the first time in months, our early warning systems show no hostile activity anywhere in human space. The children on New Sol are back in school. The miners on the outer colonies are working without fear. The age of being tested is over. After the communication ended, the military leaders discussed the future of human space defense. The war had revealed capabilities that had been hidden for decades, but it had also shown the importance of restraint. We need to remember this lesson, Admiral Hanel said. Power without wisdom is just destruction. The aliens tested us because they could not understand that we were choosing to be gentle. 3 months later, the first post-war diplomatic summit was held on Earth. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy attended, including delegates from the defeated civilizations. General Vorthak, now serving as a civilian advisor to his rebuilt government, spoke to the assembly about the lessons his species had learned. We spent months studying human responses to our attacks, he said. We measured their reaction times, analyzed their tactics, and calculated their capabilities. But we made one fatal error. We assumed that what we observed was the limit of what they could do. He paused and looked around the room at the other alien delegates. We learned too late that human restraint is a choice, not a limitation. Their rules of engagement are self-imposed, not externally enforced. When they warned us to stop, they were offering us mercy. When we ignored those warnings, we discovered what humans are like when they stop offering mercy. The summit concluded with the signing of the Treaty of Earth, a comprehensive agreement that established new principles for interstellar relations. The treaty recognized humanity's unique position as both the most militarily capable and most diplomatically inclined species in the galaxy. 1 year after the war, Commander Ji-won stood on the bridge of the EDF Harmony and watched a routine patrol mission. The ship was back to its old duties of protecting mining stations and trade routes, but everything had changed. Sir, we are receiving a distress call from a Vorthan cargo ship, reported Lieutenant Yoonji. They are requesting assistance with engine failure. Commander Ji-won smiled. 6 months ago, the idea of Vorthans asking humans for help would have been impossible. Now it was routine. Set course to assist, he ordered. Standard rescue protocols. As the Harmony moved to help the stranded alien ship, Commander Ji-won reflected on how much the galaxy had changed. The age of testing humanity was over. The age of respecting humanity had begun. And throughout the galaxy, on worlds both human and alien, children learned new lessons about the difference between being weak and choosing to be kind. They learned that true strength was not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when destruction was necessary and when mercy was possible. The humans had kept their promise. They had returned to civilized conduct. But the galaxy would never again mistake human politeness for human weakness. The message was clear and would never be forgotten. When humans said they preferred peace, they meant it. When they offered mercy, it was a gift. And when they warned someone to stop, the wise choice was always to listen, because everyone now knew what happened to those who did not.